everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm Alfred Ip of Hugo and Ip. Today we have Henry Tse. Hello, Henry.
Hello, Alfred.
Tell me more about yourself. I mean, you grew up in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, I've been living in Hong Kong for 7 years now. Before I was in the UK for a while for my education, and I also worked a bit after graduating from university.
Okay. And before that, you were living in Hong Kong?
Yes, I was born and raised in Hong Kong.
Okay. And were you coming from a very local, typical Chinese family?
Yes, I was born into a very traditional, conservative Chinese family, yes.
Yeah, and is it when I went to the time when you were in the UK that you realized about your gender identity?
So when I was in Hong Kong, growing up, I always have been very atypical in terms of my behavior, gender-wise.
Okay.
And I always gravitated towards something that's most people would consider boyish.
Okay.
And I used to play a lot of sports with the boys in my school during primary school stage, and I was very lucky that I was accepted as one of the lads, and then for secondary school I went to a traditional religious evangelical girls' school.
Evangelical girls' school?
Yes.
God.
Yes. And the girls' school, they had this blue cheongsam as the uniform.
Okay.
Yes, which I really hated.
Can you imagine?
Yes, and I had a really hard time there, as you might imagine, being, looking so boyish. It's really funny because, I entered the school and my friend didn't tell me back then, but, after I came out to them as transgender, they told me this story that, they thought I was, in the wrong place.
Yeah, okay.
They thought, someone took their little brother to the school. Yes, that's the comment they made,
You were literally trapped in the cheongsam.
Yes, I was, but I didn't have the vocabularies back then to describe my condition because I didn't see anyone like myself.
Yeah.
Back then I didn't, there's no social media, there's nothing. Just all I knew about transgender people was, the handful of transgender women.
Yeah.
And who were always portrayed it in a very negative light. And I just couldn't relate myself to that.
There wasn't a role model for you at the time.
There was no role model. The only thing what I knew what lesbian meant, because in girls' school it's quite common to have tomboy and TBG and
the best that you have
like
was tomboy, but not every tomboy wanted to become a male.
Indeed, I actually didn't see myself. I didn't identify as a tomboy.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know what I was at that point.
Yeah.
I was exploring myself, and but somehow the school management, some of them thought I was a tomboy, and I was picked on a lot.
You see, that is the problem that you faced at the time. So we were talking about, 20 years ago?
15 years ago.
The society wasn't as open. People never come across this gender identity issue, especially for social worker, teachers, or parents. Nobody knew about those things. Nobody knew about how to handle a situation when there is a gender identity issue.
They have no clue. And I mean, like for some teachers, they just
toss it aside?
No, they just thought that it's a sin.
It's a sin, okay.
They thought it's a sin, it's something really wrong. It's, they equate that to bad behavior, something unwanted, and something that should be getting rid of. And, I didn't experience myself, but I've heard stories from my friends who went to similar kinds of schools. And, they were found out by their teachers that they were gay, and the teachers that out them to their parents, and they try to put them on some sort of conversion therapy.
God.
In this, these stories, this is not uncommon at all. Wow. And until today,
wow. I mean they guilt them.
It's still happening.
First of all, they guilt them, and then they try to brainwash them to convert them back to have good behavior as they define.
And back in the days, well, now, I just came up with this story.
Yeah.
So I was playing, because I really hated the cheongsam.
Yeah.
And I tried my very best to bypass it.
Yeah.
And because I was very athletic,
yeah.
and I was representing the school in multiple sports.
Yes.
I was basically training every day.
Okay.
So, I found this loophole.
Yeah.
I could wear the tracksuit to school instead of the cheongsam. That's what I did every day. I just wore the tracksuit to school and, try to not wear the cheongsam. And I was playing in the basketball team.
Yeah.
At the time, and then we had this one staff who is really homophobic.
Yeah.
And so every time we train, he would gather us around in a circle, explain to us, some kind of basketball strategy, and he would try to teach us, life lessons. And he would
push.
And he would take the opportunity to tell us to be more girlish, and he would say overtly that homosexuality is something wrong.
Okay.
And then he just went on this one time, and he warned us actually that if he found out any of us it's gay, he would kick that person out of the team.
Terrorize you guys.
Yes.
But
constantly terrorizing us.
There's a question that I have though. He's a basketball coach.
Yes.
How can a girl play basketball and score in a girly way? It's incredible. It's incredible. Yes. I thought you're a basketball coach. You're supposed to get the team into like getting as many scores as possible. How to play girly? Yes.
Now I should tell you the rest of the story first before I
sure
go on and talk about something else. So so this senior girl who was really, really good.
Yeah.
She was so good that she won many medals in the top division of the basketball league, and then she was actually in the national youth team.
Okay.
So she was really good, right?
Yeah. Top athlete.
Top athlete in Hong Kong. And she was found out to be in a relationship with another girl at another school.
Okay.
And then the coach really kicked her out.
Oh, you see?
Yes.
The terrorizing does work.
Yes, and we didn't know what to do back in the time. We were just, everyone was just so traumatized.
Right.
Yes, that was the experience that I had in Hong Kong. And now, this man is still teaching in Hong Kong. And I just mentioned, a while ago, I mentioned my experience to another coach.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's very common,
Right. It's true,
in the basketball circle, like you see tomboys and lesbian. It's very common.
Yeah. Why would they terrorize people in such a way when it's really none of their business? Whether someone is a lesbian or not, it's really none of their business.
I think a part of it is the lack of education.
Lack of education.
Ignorant. Ignorance, and maybe to do with his masculinity. He wants to use this as a way to to flaunt his macho. Yeah.
Seriously, how can a tomboy or any girl who behave a little bit masculine intimidate his own masculinity? I have no idea. But moving to the UK, is it a liberating experience to you?
Oh, it's so much better because I was very sick of the school.
Okay.
Yes, I just couldn't see myself continuing at that school.
It's very unbearable.
It's really unbearable. It was. completely. And I was very fortunate that I finally got to leave the school after completing my public exam. I wish I left earlier, really. Yeah. And so I completed my A levels in the UK.
Okay.
And then I went on to university, completed my degree there. And it was during that time that I finally got to know the notion of what being a transgender man means.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that might be me. And at the time, I was in the UK and I was in Brighton.
Yeah.
A place very close to Brighton.
Yes.
And the environment is completely different.
Oh, can you imagine?
Yes. And, when I was there was this lesbian couple in my class, one of my classes. Everyone knew they were a couple.
Okay.
And sometimes they would show their affections.
Okay.
And no one would punish them.
Okay.
Because they can't, because the law protected them.
Okay.
Even though somebody might want to, I don't know, but they couldn't do anything to them. And I just felt safe in that environment. And, my friends, my new friends, they would just invite me to Pride Parade.
Okay.
It's
Eye-opener.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Like Pride Parade to them is just like a big carnival to them.
Yeah.
It's not something, it's not a taboo at all. It's a big party to them. Actually.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a wonderful party.
Yes, it's huge in Brighton. I don't know if that's the biggest in the UK, but it's very big.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Being in that environment, obviously externally I felt very relieved. And I was making good progress there. I was doing well academically. But inside of me I was having this struggle because I was reaching my late teen years and my body inevitably was following the female path.
Yeah, of course.
And I knew that, and I reached a point. I just became increasingly uncomfortable with the physical development.
Yeah.
And I started to bind.
Okay.
Around that age, and I bought a binder. I don't know if you know what a binder is. It's a chest binder. Basically, it's like a half vest.
Oh, okay. Understood.
It's got some hooks
Yeah.
at the side, and it's got like a thick layer of bandages
Okay.
at the front. So you bind very tightly so that the bandages would press your chest down to make your chest look flat. So that's what a binder is. And I bought my binder and I just so obsessed with it.
Okay.
I wore that every day, 24/7, and it got to a point that I almost fainted.
Okay.
When I was walking under the sun because it's really hot in Hong Kong.
Maybe.
And I was wearing that binder, and you have to constantly, pull your shirt to make sure that, nobody would find out that you're actually wearing something underneath it.
I can imagine it must be very uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable and it hurts. It's unhealthy because
of course.
Because if you bind very tightly, like it does damage your rib cage in the long run.
Okay.
And I was also at this age where I was able to plan myself in a more abstract way. And I started to think like, what should I do when I entered university? What job I should get afterwards? How I want to be seen in the society.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't see myself entering this wider world as female, and I couldn't see myself being in an intimate relationship as female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the question that I think a lot of people don't understand. Being a minority in the society, that you couldn't see yourself, placing yourself in a wider society. I guess until you find out that actually there's something called gender identity and you can actually do something about it. So was it in the UK that you finally received some help in that respect?
Yes. So I knew that there's a gender identity clinic available.
Oh, there's a clinic.
Yes, there's a one-stop service. They actually have one in Hong Kong as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
At the Prince of Wales Hospital.
Okay.
Yes, it's quite the service that they provide there is really good in Hong Kong.
Can you particularize a little bit more about? Is it more about counseling?
It's a one-stop service, so it covers everything from initial consultation with psychologists and psychiatrists, and then also with hormone treatment and referral to services that you need, like surgeries, etc., and psychological support, maybe voice training. Yes.
So there are professionals who now have the experience with many of the transgender to community that they can offer these kind of assistance from psychological to physical to medical.
Yes.
Yeah. The UK probably is very developed already, but Hong Kong there's still one clinic.
Well, that's an interesting way to put it, because now in the UK things is drastically different. It's very transphobic in the UK now compared to when I started my medical transition. Yes, I don't know if you heard about some transphobes.
I haven't heard about it.
You don't know about it. Oh,
no, I don't. Yeah.
It's good that you don't know about that. But yeah,
I mean, you wouldn't have thought that our society as advanced and forward as the UK would have this trend going back.
Things can go back if yes.
And that's actually a very good lesson for us, not to take anything for granted, especially when we see some of the younger community members. They don't seem to understand how much we have progressed over the years and the effort that we have put in to help the society to become a more equal, especially towards the LGBT community.
Yes, it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So what was I talking about? I was talking about starting my medical transition in the UK.
But then your medical transition in the UK, but then it's after you came back to Hong Kong that you faced actual challenges, like going around being seen as a female when you're like you're behaving like a male. So what prompted you into that legal challenge journey?
Yes. So when I was in the UK, I had my documentations changed. Already.
Yes.
Fairly easily.
Quite
straightforward. So even before I started my hormone replacement therapy, before any surgery, I had already had my passport changed in the UK. So all I needed was a letter from my doctor. And a very short note from myself. And saying that this is Henry is a trans man and he would like to live as male thereafter. And I submitted the stuff to the passport office, and within a week I received a new passport. And then I also had my gender recognition certificate done in the UK. So that means I was mostly I was considered male consistently by the laws in the UK. So I didn't have any problems whatsoever living as a man in the UK. And if I get a job in the UK, my boss would know my history of gender transition, etc. And and I could see myself having a future in the UK. Actually, at that point, because I was already consistently recognized as male. So if I wanted to get married, have children, and that would have no problems.
You just live as a male like any other male.
Yes, exactly.
Not like Hong Kong.
Yes, at the time I didn't really consider the option of returning to Hong Kong.
Okay.
Yes, because I knew there was basically nothing to protect me.
Yeah.
There's no anti-discrimination law, and
Yeah.
given my very negative experience in that girls' school,
Yeah.
and that was just not really a realistic option for me at the time.
Yeah.
And then, but then I decided to come back in 2017.
What's the reason?
Yes, for a very special reason, because I got a job offer with an international organization
Okay.
that has good protections
Okay.
for LGBT employees.
You wouldn't be coming back without the protection that your employer can provide at the time.
I would not have come back.
Yeah. You
If
would not come back.
no.
Yeah.
Yes, I decided. Well, I made that decision because I knew at least
Yeah.
at the workplace I would be protected.
Yes.
And I mean, the work was great, and I was actually not the only queer person
Okay.
at the workplace. And my colleagues, they
Okay.
transgender, me being transgender doesn't really concern them. They just treated me as anybody else. I enjoyed the work, but then, now coming back, having transitioned to male, not being able to change the ID in Hong Kong, just brought me all these new problems in life outside of work.
Yeah, this is something that I want to understand a little bit more. I guess most of us would not have these challenges. We would not understand the challenges. Can you share with us some of the most horrible experience when you have the Hong Kong identity card that doesn't align with your gender?
Yes, so I guess, I was talking to a radio show host a few weeks ago. And he's like, I never paid attention to the one letter on my ID. Yes, this is the crux of it, isn't it?
Indeed.
It's like oxygen. You don't sense the existence
Of course.
of oxygen until you
Stop breathing.
Yeah, you
and
stop
then you
breathing,
lack
you
of
can't
it,
breathe, yes.
Yeah, you suffocate. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's a good analogy.
Yes.
To the ID situation.
Yes.
So I came back, and then I tried everything I could to change the ID. I told the immigration department that I had my UK passport changed, etc. already, and my doctor provided them a letter, a specialist psychiatrist, explaining that there's no need for me to complete those full sex reassignment surgery.
Reassignment surgery, okay.
In order to live as a man, because in Hong Kong, under the old policy, for transgender men to change that one letter on his ID, he would need to be first completely sterilized, and second have an artificial penis constructed. So these are really invasive surgeries, and very few trans men would choose to do it.
Okay.
And the complication rate is really, really high, and that's why very few people were able to fulfill that requirement.
I guess most of the people would not understand the extent of transgender surgery and how it would impact the overall health and well-being of a human body. They don't understand that it is actually a very big procedure. It's not like removing your appendix. It is more like, how would you compare it with?
Well, my analogy is this. So, for a cisgender person, you're not required to remove any of your organs in order to have the right ID and to live a normal life in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So why would it make sense to impose such a harsh hurdle on transgender people in order for them to have the right ID to live a normal life in Hong Kong.
It is indeed very true.
Yes.
It is more like having one kidney removed.
Yes.
Or having a major part of your liver removed.
Yes.
And even though you recover from it, you're never like what you used to be, right? I guess the problem is that most people don't realize how is it like to have people constantly challenging or questioning your identity. It's not just one alphabet on a Hong Kong ID card.
It literally is about that one alphabet. They have this whole suspicion about your character and your authenticity.
Yeah.
Yes. So because in Hong Kong the role of the ID card is quite unique.
Indeed.
Because in the UK at least, and many other places, you are not required to bring your ID with you.
Yeah, there's no UK ID card as such.
No, there's no ID card in the UK, also not in neighboring jurisdictions like Japan. There's no such thing as the ID card.
Yeah.
And in Hong Kong, you are obliged to bring it with you when you're out on the street. If the police comes and they ask you and you don't have it, you're in trouble, right?
Yes. And then even after you present it to them and they look at you and say, oh, it says it's female.
Yes. And that's only one of the many problems.
Of course.
Numerous, countless problems.
I'm sure you're not stopped by the police all the time.
No, but every time when I take the ID out,
yes,
the other person would not believe that the person, this female stated on the ID, is the same person as this bearded man in front of them.
Okay.
Because obviously, no one would consider me as female.
Yeah.
I have a beard. I have a deep voice. I look no different. I'm no different from any other man on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the incongruence just leads to all these problems. And when I went to the bank, I already try to afford it as much as possible. Yeah. But sometimes you have to go in person to the counter and sort things out.
Yeah, of course.
And at the time, I already gave them everything they needed.
Okay. And they're still questioning you.
Yes, and then when I went there again, they saw my ID and they asked me to resubmit all the documents again. God. And they would call me Tse over the microphone because the title was still Tse unless I had my ID changed. Many of the banks couldn't update it. So that was the bank problem, and then I had problem trying to rent a place. I was trying to rent this youth hostel in Hong Kong, and everything was going great. I was having I was discussing with the administrator there. Okay. And I thought, I'll get a place and, things sorted. But, once I took my ID out and he suddenly went, no, you can't have this place. We can't let you in. You can't stay in our place. And I guess he was worried about, whether to put me in the male dorm or the female dorm.
I guess a lot of people do not understand how to deal with a transgender person. And then you mentioned earlier that in the UK there's a gender identity certificate.
Yes.
Was it issued by the government?
It is. It is.
Which department?
They have
a special authority for it.
Yes, they have a tribunal.
Okay.
I can't remember the full name, but they set up a tribunal just to deal with that matter.
Understood.
And there's a panel of specialists to sign the document for the applicants. Yes, it's not like anyone can sign it. It has to be those who qualify to be on that panel.
The reason I ask is that given that there's such a great system in the UK, and to be honest, most of our laws are copied from the UK, actually there's a very good precedent for our Hong Kong government to follow in order to recognize those transgender people, what they need in order to comply with the requirement without having them going through the whole surgical process.
Yes, that's exactly the court explicitly said in 2013 when the W case was ruled upon by the Court of Final Appeal.
Right.
Yes, they said, well, they already saw the problem. They saw, cases like mine coming to the court, and they didn't want, the numerous cases coming up.
You see, actually, our judiciary are very forward-looking and visionary.
Yes.
Is it a very stressful process going from the High Court to the Court of Appeal to the Court of Final Appeal?
It was certainly longer than what I expected, and there was a lot of delays. At first, I think I didn't expect the judgment would take so long to be published, and we asked the Court of First Instance multiple times.
Okay.
Over 6 months, I think.
Okay.
Every month we went to them and we chased them up, asking for a judgment, and they said it's not ready.
Oh.
And it got postponed for almost a year.
Okay.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
That affected things a little bit, and then my lawyer suddenly left Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yes, so that impacted me, not just me, but I think a very large part of the Hong Kong movement, which is highly dependent on judicial review, because he's such a talent. And when the top guy left, the whole movement gets affected.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. And then, apart from, the government and, the technical side of things, there's also, oppositions, disinformation, attacks that are faced from different sides, some from, trans organizations in Hong Kong. And, but, it's such a difficult journey. But
how long did it take from the beginning of your legal challenge to finally getting your ratified Hong Kong ID card 2 weeks ago?
From the start?
From the start,
From the start, so 7 years.
7 years.
More than 7 years.
More than 7 years.
Yes.
For what can be viewed as a very simple change of a Hong Kong ID card.
Yes.
It have taken you 7 years.
Yes, just to change that one letter. And given the court's recommendation in 2013, in W's case, my case should not have happened.
Sure.
So I'm just, I've used 7 years to do what the government should have done long time ago. Yeah. And after this victory, what else the government needs to do in order to recognize the right of transgender in Hong Kong? So right now the revised policy, although the full sex reassignment surgery requirement has been removed, but there are still other requirements that that concerns us, like the random hormone checks.
Random hormone checks.
Yes, and the almost immediate notification to the government if you change your address, or your number.
So you are constantly being monitored by the government.
Yes, yes. Even though it's not, it's not necessarily a regular thing, but they have the power to ask you anytime to submit those information and check those information.
I guess ultimately the transgender recognition, the gender recognition identity certificate, gender identity certificate that we mentioned about is not going to be implemented in Hong Kong anytime soon?
Well, for that to happen, you need the government to take initiative.
Yes.
They need to take the lead because we don't have the power.
Of course.
To, make that happen. But yeah, that's, apart from the, human rights issues that I just mentioned, also surgical requirements in the revised policy, gender recognition, legal gender recognition as a whole, it's still an unresolved issue. So yes, and this is the issue that I will work on, continue to work on after this lawsuit.
Is it the reason why you started your NGO?
This is part of the reason. Yes.
This one.
Yes. So I started my organization in 2020. It's called Transgender Equality Hong Kong.
Okay.
And the primary primary reason for that was that I wasn't getting the help that I needed.
Yeah.
To boost the lawsuit, because I was, I lost in the first 2 rounds of the lawsuit, and there's changes with the makeup of the judiciary at the top court, so I was very concerned.
Okay.
And so I said, other transgender organizations, some of them even opposed my lawsuit. So I needed to help myself. So I took this bold step, setting up my own organization, which was a lot of work. And
yeah, of course.
And yes, we started this project called Transmen in Hong Kong.
Transmen in Hong Kong.
Visibility versus invisibility, just before the case was heard by the Court of Final Appeal.
Okay.
So it's a diverse set of Hong Kongese trans men who are not recognized as male by Hong Kong.
Okay.
And this is an effort to tell a story, to tell the story of this very tiny group. Of trans men who are mostly invisible in mainstream media. So we want to show that, we are just like any other man, and we deserve to be recognized as male by Hong Kong.
And live a normal life like any other male in Hong Kong.
Yes, and amongst us, there's this one man. This guy, he is called Francis. So he desperately needed a male ID because he needed to get married. Okay. And his Filipino de facto wife needs that to get her spousal visa.
Understood.
So you can see how that one letter would link to so many things, so many rights that
without the Hong Kong ID
comes
card,
with marriage, etc.
Without the Hong Kong ID card, he cannot get married anywhere.
Not as a man, he could get married in the wrong gender.
Oh God.
Yes, but but he's a man, and he should marry as a man.
I think most people don't understand this problem. Just because there has been a few victory in the LGBT community over the challenge to Hong Kong, like the latest one that the Court of Final Appeal finally says that same-sex couples should have the same right as heterosexual couples. But there's one thing that they don't understand is that the major problem with same-sex marriage in Hong Kong is that there's no recognition when there's a dissolution of marriage. For example, if Francis get married with his wife in Hong Kong, not in Hong Kong, sorry, because he hasn't changed his gender, even if he get married with his wife in some other jurisdiction, the same-sex marriage is recognized. If there's any problem that happen in future, as same-sex couple, they cannot get divorced in Hong Kong.
Yes, I've heard multiple stories, on that. Yeah. So people, they married in the US. Yes. And then their relation changed. Yes. And they wanted to get divorced.
No, they cannot get divorced.
Yes, you have to live there for a year. Sometimes it depends on the state.
I guess the problem is not just that. In order to live there for the court of jurisdiction to dissolve the marriage is one thing. how to resolve the ancillary issues that comes with the divorce, like the children issues and the finance issues. In Hong Kong, we have divorce cases all the time, and there are so many issues that are hotly disputed between divorcing couples. Therefore, there are so many divorce lawyers around. But these issues cannot be addressed properly when they are in same-sex relationship, marriage. And for transgender people not to be able to get married and be treated as a heterosexual couples actually presents more problem than a lot of people may envisage. This is exactly the reason why what you have been through create actually a very big impact, not only to the transgender people, but also to the wider community of the LGBT.
Indeed, yes.
It is tremendous process, and I always say those who have gone through the legal battles, especially when they're not lawyers, the amount of time, effort, and distress that they've gone through is not something that most people will understand, and I admire you for that.
It is very hard to people to relate to that, and I actually, in the past few years, apart from forming my own organization, I also tried my very best to look beyond Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And very luckily I found this community. And I didn't know at the very start, actually, I didn't know that what I was fighting for is actually a very common obstacle we share in East Asia. Yeah. Actually, there are people in Taiwan who are fighting the same thing in Japan, and I started to befriend them. I became friends with them, and and I was very fortunate to have met them and call them my friends. And it's not only that they we are fighting this very difficult court battles, but also they really offered me the help where I desperately needed it.
This movement is becoming international, and you're creating a wider impact to the world.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes. I think, when I just won the case, I think 2 weeks later, the Taiwanese Constitutional Court quoted my case.
Really?
Yes. And I had this really amazing Thai activist friend, because in Thailand, it's impossible for transgender people to change their legal gender.
Really?
Yes.
Well, there's so many of them.
Yes.
I'm very surprised.
Yes, many people in Hong Kong, they think, oh, Thailand, when they hear the word transgender and Thailand, they immediately think that it's a paradise there. They do the surgeries there, but in reality, the legal landscape, it's really unfriendly there.
Okay.
No matter how much procedures you do, do all the surgeries you could possibly do, it's impossible for you to amend your legal gender. So, yes, and they've been pushing for it, and I hope that will happen. That will happen as soon as possible. And this activist just said to me when I won the case last year that you give me hope, and I just think it's great that I'm, as much as I receive help from them, I'm returning the favor, and I'm giving hope to somebody else in the region.
Have you ever thought that what started as a personal issue will have such a great impact to the world?
No, I didn't foresee that at all. I didn't foresee that. I had no intention. I was not involved in activism. That was not my intention.
Okay.
Therefore, it took me so long to eventually started my organization, which now looking back, I should have started it earlier.
Yeah.
Yes, to make things easier.
If there's one thing that you would ask the public to support you, what would it be?
So what I've been fighting for, it's very simply to live just like any other guy.
Yeah.
And, and for my community, I'm fighting for them to live as their quiet gender, just like anybody else.
You are not trying to be a hero. You just wanted to be treated equally.
Yes, we just want to live a life, to be able to work, to be able to form a family, to settle.
Yeah,
in
settle
Hong Kong.
down.
Yes.
Settle in Hong Kong.
Rather than, taking all this exhausting legal battles just to get that one letter changed on their ID.
Yeah.
So after the lawsuit, I will continue to work closely with my legal team and all the other stakeholders, including those at my organization, to further improve the revised policy and to further advance progress on legal gender recognition. So if you want to support me and my organization, you're very much welcome.
Thank you very much for today, and you will have me on your supporter list.
Thank you. We need you. We need more people to support us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.